yes, there was someone else bitten by the same spider that day. Many people know her as Cindy Moon, aka Silk. But who the hell is Cindy Moon? And why is she so important to the Spider-Man mythos and the rewriting of Peter's backstory? My name is Lewis, and welcome to the channel that loves Spider-Man just as much as you do. A quick disclaimer, we will be talking about spoilers for Marvel Spider-Man 2 in this video, so if you have not played the game, make sure to click off now. Many fans have been wondering about the mysterious character called Cindy who appeared in the first post-credit scene of the game. Cindy, as she's being referred to in the post-credit scene, is actually a character known as Cindy Moon, aka Silk. And she was created by Dan Slott in his run on the Spider-Man comics back in 2014. Cindy Moon appeared in Amazing Spider-Man issue 4, which was a part of a storyline dedicated to Original Sin. Now, without getting too overcomplicated, here's what Original Sin basically is in a nutshell. Original Sin, which was written by Jason Aaron at the time, was a series dedicated to rewriting and rehashing events and characters that had already been fleshed out in the Marvel Universe, with the goal of recrafting elements of them to add depth to future stories. In Spider-Man's case, this came in the form of rewriting Peter's backstory, which meant that he wasn't the only person to get bitten by the spider. So no, he's not the only original Spider-Man. Cindy Moon also got bitten at the same time. However, unlike Peter, who got to use his spider abilities for all those years, Cindy would be locked away until Slott's run. This was to protect her from a villain known as Morlun, who sought those with totemic powers. Now, I know this sounds really complicated, but basically, in a nutshell, every single spider person throughout the multiverse has something called a spider totem. And basically, Morlun wants these spider totems because, I don't know, he's greedy. It's actually revealed through the story that Cindy's totem is stronger than most, and Morlun has been seeking to kill her for a while. Hence, she has been locked away ever since her powers became apparent. However, after learning of another, Peter became intrigued as to who the Cindy Moon character was. After investigating, Peter came across the vault in which she was being kept at, which was designed to keep her at bay from the outside world. Basically, this is where Peter screws up. After Peter lets her go, he reveals that Morlun has already been defeated. However, what he doesn't tell her is that he has been defeated twice, meaning that he can come back. And as soon as Cindy finds this out, she's like, Peter, you're an idiot, man. And obviously the freeing of Cindy Moon then leads us into the Spider-Verse event, which came a few issues later in the Dan Slott run. Other than her initial introduction, Cindy would go on to have her own series as well, which would delve into the psychology of her character and what it was like for her in isolation for all of those years. Those books also tackle lingering questions surrounding her parents, and I definitely think they are some of the most underrated Spider-Man books in my opinion, and I do recommend checking them out. She also works for J. Jonah Jameson as well, so I guess some things don't change if you get bit by a spider. If you love Spider-Man and want a niche side story that's relatively grounded, the Silk books are great. But what are her powers and abilities? Well, it's not as straightforward as it would first seem. Silk possesses everything that you would expect Peter Parker to, and since they were bitten by the same spider, it makes sense, right? However, there were a few key differences. First, Silk has something known as her Silk Sense or Hyper Spider Sense, which is essentially Peter's spider sense but dialed all the way to 100, making it more adaptive and better than Peter's altogether. The second thing is that she has organic webbing. Now, Peter at one point throughout the comics did have organic webbing himself. However, it's widely known that apart from the Tobey Maguire movies, Peter Parker doesn't generally have organic webbing. That was a feature from those movies that was very specific to what Raimi was doing with that character. However, Silk does, but it doesn't actually come out of her wrists. It comes out of her fingertips, which is really weird. I don't know how to feel about that. Either way, her powers differ from Peter's, and if she does become a playable character in the next Insomniac installment, I'm sure those factors will be integrated into her gameplay ability. Throughout her years of isolation, Cindy was also taught many forms of rigorous combat in the event that Morlun did ever find her. This is why when Peter does eventually find her, she is already like a badass, right? But what if you want to jump on board with a Silk comic? Where should you start? This is actually a very easy question to answer, unlike many characters throughout Marvel and DC comics, because Silk doesn't actually have that many comics. If you want to jump on board with a current Silk series that is running today, this year in March she received a new #1, which follows her as a detective, and it's actually pretty good. I think the issue is that these books don't nearly get as much attention as they should. Honestly, Silk is a great character, but if you want a longer series, I heavily recommend her 2015 run, which lasted for 20 or so issues. It's also got some really funky art. I do recommend it. It's a pretty good read. But it hasn't always been clouds and rainbows when it comes to Silk. You see, when Silk was first introduced, people criticized Dan Slott for the over-sexualization of her and Peter's relationship, and it wouldn't be until her own series that they did tone it down a bit and focus on other aspects of her character more heavily. In case you don't know what I'm referring to, basically when Cindy was first introduced, her and Peter, both being bitten by the same spider, gave off major pheromones for each other, meaning that they are heavily attracted to one another. For a time before the Spider-Verse event, they would basically see each other, and it was really weird. I'm sorry, Dan Slott, I don't know what you were cooking with that. And it's safe to say that this is something that they definitely won't adapt into a character in Marvel's Spider-Man 3. Which is a perfect segue that actually does bring us full circle. How will they actually adapt her character in Marvel's Spider-Man 2? Well, judging by the post-credit scene, it looks like they will be taking a very different and original direction with the character based on the fact that she isn't locked up in isolation. There's a hint that potentially we could have some sort of Spider-Verse event in Marvel's Spider-Man 3, since the Spider-Bot side quest led to a very interesting interaction with Delilah, who tells the player not to let Miguel find out. But since we have Goblin and potentially Doc Ock coming back for Marvel's Spider-Man 3, I doubt that Spider-Verse is on the cards. I don't think they'd have the chance to do someone like Morlun or the Inheritors. I don't think they're gonna do that. Although we know Insomniac loves to take stories from the Dan Slott run, I don't think they're gonna do Spider-Verse. And I could be completely wrong, but bigger isn't always better. And I do believe if they do Spider-Verse, it'll take away from the grounded nature and the grounded characters that they've already established within this universe. So with that, what parts of the story will they actually adapt? Well, I think it's fair to say that they will definitely incorporate her unique abilities and fighting style. Insomniac did a great job of differing Peter from Miles, so if she does become playable, that's something that we can possibly guarantee. But will she actually be bitten by the same spider as Peter Parker? I don't think so, but I actually have a theory for that. From the way that they aligned her introduction narratively, I believe she will have some sort of mentor relationship with Miles Morales. Miles will show her the ropes of being Spider-Man, kinda like how Peter showed him. But if Cindy had been locked up all this time and got bitten 10 years ago like Peter did, you would have thought that we would have found out about her by now. Therefore, I believe one of two things happened. When the spider first escaped when you were doing the MJ mission in the first game, I reckon either another spider escaped off screen and we didn't see it and then it went on to bite Cindy, or the same spider bit her after biting Miles. But given how hard Miles hit that spider, I don't think it's alive. Either way, it's going to be interesting to see what they do adapt from her comics and what they don't adapt from her comics. And with that, thanks for watching, subscribe for more Spidey content, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care and peace.